showtime.
Dynamite download.
Dynamite download, your home for all positive coverage with all elite wrestling.
Oh, you guys, positive energy.
This reality, like, it is me. Like,
Who let this guy in here?
This is what pro wrestling's supposed to feel like.
I'm saying I have a better record than Kenny Omega and Samoa Joe, and now I'm going to have to wrestle them.
I've never seen someone able to break down like wrestling like he does.
I said, Mariah May. She said, who?
Because I'm so driven, and I'm so moved to like what I want to do.
The versus Brian Keith match. It's awesome.
That's so cool. You got like these creepy ass dudes.
Oldest ride, longest line.
I was like deep diving into like cults.
My real story does connect with a lot of people.
I never say never about anything.
Yeah.
Back to do an interview with those guys. You know why? Because they spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Woohoo! Hey,
It's Thursday. You know what that means. It's Dynamite Download time, baby.
Yo, exactly.
Hot off the press, hot off the live show. SPD is there holding it down for Dynamite Download in my town of Greenville, South Carolina. But man, it was a really felt like Dynamite was really pushing, the stepping stones closer and closer to All In. It did feel like one of those close to a go home show in a sense of what was going on. I mean, I was shocked at the ending a little bit. I thought maybe there might have been a little bit more of interference per se. Things kind of set up that. But overall, I think the show kicked off very strongly.
Absolutely. And, forget about what MJF, our American champion, had to say about your hometown. But it definitely, there was definitely a lot more promos. We were talking before we got on about how, and you mentioned it's a little more WWE-esque where, and I don't think either one of us mean that necessarily in a bad way. It's that there was less matches and more promos, but it did feel like almost like there was, like it was setting things up. And yeah, the main event, there was kind of a surprise the way that ended. I was expecting someone else to come out. There were a couple moments where I was expecting somebody to pop, a surprise run in, but it definitely feels like we're building up to something big in Wembley.
Yeah, the landscape is really shaping up. And honestly, if there wasn't anything else really announced, I'd be happy. But I mean, we're still the infancy of maybe half of the card is announced officially, hearsay. But we're building towards not only Wembley, but also the end of season 3 of our draft.
Yes.
And so currently we have a little over a month left. This is the final push per se, all the way to All Out. And so I'm not really pleased with my performance the last few weeks. I've been slipping. My team has been slipping a lot. A lot of my guys haven't been performing. That being said, I might see a couple points, come up here a little bit more and more. But let's throw up those rankings. Let's talk about where we're sitting at right now, August 1st.
And read them and weep.
Hey.
Read them and weep.
40 on top, man. Holding the crown at 40 with Brian. Wow.
Unbelievable.
It's one of those. Gosh, it's the same thing. If you stick with the Orange Cassidy, you're gonna near the top. I think I was the only person out of the 3 seasons who won without Orange Cassidy on the team. But that being said, he's been surrounded himself with the conglomeration, which has been racking up W's and oh man, I can't believe how much farther ahead he is at the moment.
I will say this though, if you look at Orange, ever since Orange lost the title and ever since this draft, Orange is not the one really giving Brian the W's, because he has a pretty well-rounded team. Orange has gotten some of them with the conglomerate, but if you look at his team overall with Mariah May, Willow Nightingale's gotten some W's. Obviously, Britt has returned. Roderick Strong is actually, I think, got the most W's for his team. But
yeah, someone I had last season and he didn't really do too much.
But he decided all of a sudden to perform this time. Go figure, right? It's like
the curse of the belt, I feel like, as well. How often do we, other than I think Tony Storm has been one of the most defending champions in AEW over the last year or so, in my opinion, whether it be an eliminator match or not, it's still a title match. The curse of the belt, I think some of those belts you're not getting as much showcase. Ospreay was defending it a lot too early on, but how often do we see champions, defend once a month or whatever? And so that was, I think, the curse of the Roddy Strong one. And now he's, getting paired up at different tags and trios and different matches. And we're seeing him again on Collision tomorrow night or on Saturday night. So he is being showcased more, which is good.
Yeah. And there's a knock at your door, SPD, from Courtney.
Who's there?
It's Miss Courtney is knocking at the door with only 3 points behind you and Bob.
I know. I know. Let's see. Where's Courtney's team? Let's see. I want to see where we're at on that one. Let's see who's going to be some of her MVPs coming up. There we go. Okay. Well, we just saw Trent. If you didn't see online, he's going under neck surgery recently. So I don't know if you caught that, but the pins in his neck had to be reapplied or reinstalled due to all the bumps I'm sure he's taking. But Nyla Rose is getting a little bit of a push. I saw her. I saw her on Rampage versus Harley when I was there live yesterday. Statlander, Snacklander, getting a push. We'll see with the House of Black. I mean, they've been haunting around. Maybe they'll make an appearance on Collision this Saturday as well. But it's anybody's game. It really is.
I would say,
even though 40 points, I still think that's catchable.
Yes, everything's catchable at this point. I mean. And I would even say even Brent could have just an amazing couple weeks here.
Right. And you never know the way
never know what could happen.
They could start booking people to protect them for All In, so you're not getting any injuries. You're not getting these marquee matches. That's not the typical way, but hey, we'll see, whatever. It is what it is. And it's fun to watch every single week and makes me more invested in the talent that's on my team to watch them more. And I got one of my guys finally wrestling, Will by God Ospreay versus Lance Archer, one of the marquee matches that I was really looking forward to this Dynamite. It was the first one announced. When I knew I was going to the show, I just kept refreshing and following. Like, when are they going to post something about what's happening on the card? Was really excited for this one. But I got to say, being there live, the show just seems to run so fast. It's so much quicker. You don't know when there's a commercial break mid-match. And it's just, we've all been to shows. It's just that vibe. It's just so great. And
how much of that's the
FTD, we go through All Out. Yeah. We're going through All Out for the draft through September 7th, All Out. But one thing before the show, 5 minutes before live, they aired an MJF promo to the crowd, just shitting and calling South Carolina the drizzling shits, like he's called us here at Dynamite Download the drizzling shits. So he's using that over and over again. But he definitely had a fire promo to get the crowd really amped up and excited to kick off the show. And then he kicked off the show when his music hit. So I didn't expect I know he was on the poster of Dynamite for this show, the advertisements, but he wasn't announced that he'd appear. And of course, in MJF fashion, just talking so much smack about the local town. On flip side, it's fun to hear Danielson talk about how him and his Bree did their engagement photos in Greenville. So the South, the dump, the armpit to beautiful spot to Danielson. I think I trust Danielson more than MJF.
Well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes you got to make sure you know what team you're on.
There it is.
There's only so far south of the Mason-Dixon I'm going to go. But,
so great seats for the show as well. I was on the camera side there, so no TV time for SPD, but you guys had some great seats while I was there. Watching the crowd, it was a pretty good crowd as well, very hot crowd. How did it sound on TV?
For the most part, sounded good. There were one or two moments where the audio was a little bit but the crowd sounded like they were into it for the most part, and it was really awesome. The the pops for Mark Briscoe and Kyle O'Reilly stuff was just great. I mean, and Orange Cassidy and Tomohiro, but it was a really cool, really cool to watch a lot of the fan reactions and the pops here and there. So yeah, it was a good crowd. I felt like
there was a sign kind of behind where the the bell keepers were, and they was getting one of the biggest pops of the night. Someone was holding up Granny's first show, and so everyone was chanting "Granny, Granny," and then throughout, it was a common theme throughout the night of, in commercial breaks they would call out Granny, and Granny got a picture with Justin Roberts. So it was a lot of pops for Granny for sure. Total mark.
Great, yeah. You never know. Granny might hop the turnbuckles and go stop MJF from bad mouthing her town.
Exactly. So this kicked things off. MJF with the red, white, and blue Burberry print now with his intro. He was kicking it off with the promo there. Mm-hmm. And man, and this is what we've talked about week in and week out, is the MJF that I think AEW really needs. And no more BS, even though he did say he was going to do a kangaroo kick to Kyle Fletcher. No more BS in around, and just, hold no punches and just be ruthless, completely ruthless, starting with what he did, changing the belt over and really, making this essentially a country war for All In. I mean, so he's really going to get some, lethal heat because he's coming into enemy territory, and he's just going to continue to put the gasoline on the fire, talking about the locals and then Ospreay. And so it's just going to make the match that much more meaningful, and the pop that much more meaningful when our guy Ospreay regains his international title in his home turf.
I want, and I hope, if Tony's not going to spring for it, I hope MJF springs for it. He needs to come out to All In dressed like Apollo Creed and Rocky IV to Living in America, James Brown, and just go full USA.
That would be awesome.
The heat would be tremendous. I mean, I love my country, but I would love to see him just, really just throw kerosene on the already flame for him. It's brilliant booking, brilliant way storytelling. I always feel like the stories are better when the belt is on the heel, when the face is after the heel. And they're just building it up for Ospreay to get that sweet victory at all. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he won't win, but this is definitely
it's a hard thing too. Like this whole thing, like, because in the crowd, some people were chanting USA. Like, you want to chant that in a good way, but you're not gonna. It's hard to. It's a fine line. It's like he's doing this whole pro USA thing, which is great, especially in a time right now, and you want to cheer for that, and that's what you want. And then, but the biggest heel in the company is the one who's representing that.
I think what would be pretty cool, and if they do in some version of this, is to have some kind of like backstage footage where MJF is unaware he's being recorded, and he says, "I really don't give a crap about USA except for my hometown. I'm just doing this USA crap just to get the marks over." And then he goes, "Wait,
that's a good point."
The camera, and really just kind of play it that he's doing it just because the stupid marks are going to chant USA. And then that way it kind of separates USA from MJF.
That's a good point. It'll protect. It'll protect the USA chance and still give him the heat that he deserves, and it gets.
Another way is just have Kurt Angle come out and and spray him with milk.
Oh gosh. The first match of the night, Ospreay. So that led to the first match of the night, which honestly I thought was going to be main event, but Hangman Darby was main event for the first time ever. Ospreay versus Archer definitely was pumped up for this one, especially the history between these two guys. And man, Murder Hawk looked like the beast that he is, man. He was just standing tall, taking the blows, not even flinching, getting his power offense in. and seeing him live in the ring there, man, he is definitely towering over Will Ospreay. And this is definitely the side of Murderhawk that we absolutely love and grew to love, when he's getting those backstage promos and just beating the crap out of everyone and everything in his way. And so just like, see, like, this puts it into perspective. Like, Ospreay's not a small guy, but Archer, man, he is just one meaty man, meat mayhem there. That's for sure.
Well, and again, he's one of those big guys that can also go with a Will Ospreay. You know, that I don't know if it was necessarily a Spanish fly, but that move off the top ropes, you know, there were a couple times off the top rope, some of the stuff that they did. But I also love how, you know, Will Ospreay has already developed the reputation with the AEW fan base of being this quick go guy.
Right.
But Lance Archer would just catch him. And there was one spot where he just kind of caught him by the throat and just went boom. And that's the thing I love, that they're really giving Lance Archer's doing. And one thing, I've said this before, one of the things I like about AEW recently is you're having these matches where you pretty much know who's going to win. There is that little bit of doubt, but the match itself, neither person looks buried, or, you know, they both put on a tremendous match. There's no way you could say that Lance Archer was buried for losing this match. He looked like the monster that he is. I just hope this isn't it. I hope let's get Lance going on some more stuff. If he's done with the Righteous, then put him in some other storyline. But just he's one of our favorite wrestlers. And Will Ospreay is one of the best wrestlers in AEW. And watching these two was art, and it was fantastic to watch.
You're right, and I love the way the match started too. Talk about like an immediate just choke slam from the upper rafters was an incredible way to start the match, and just really the power from the Murderhawk, and really set the tone for the match and set the tone for the night, because this was the opening match, and these guys battled it back and forth. It's no wonder that they've shared, you know, each shared victories over each other, and the chemistry there. And you're right. I think and hope that the push is just beginning for the Murderhawk, and continuing forward, because, you know, we've said it time and time again, and this is a top guy that needs to be showcased more often. And the last few weeks have been a lot of fun to see.
That choke slam from, like you said, from the rafters. I would have expected it like in a cartoon to see like the imprint of Will Ospreay in the mat after like going through the floor, because it just was like boom. And what a way to just, like you said, to kick it off. It's like, this isn't going to be one of those, you know, grapple, flip matches. You're going up against a beast.
That's for sure.
And it definitely delivered, and then some. And I'd like to see Lance be pissed off and go on a Murderhawk hunt, and just go after victim after victim, and then maybe go after something, the TNT title or something. But tremendous. Right. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to talk about one thing. Where am I looking for it? The Camille entrance. I got to grab something real quick. Hold on.
Yeah.
You start. You kick things off.
I can talk about Camille. You want me to talk about Camille Brickhouse, which is interesting because now they're calling her the Brickhouse Camille, which she was Camille Brickhouse at NWA and in the independent scene. But Camille Brickhouse, or, you know, Brickhouse Camille, who is such a great enforcer for Mercedes Moné. And I got to tell you, again, this was a squash match, but what this was showing what Camille can really do. We only had one other time in AEW where we saw Camille wrestle, and that was Layla Hirsch. This was a great showcase for just how brutal and how good she is, and how quick she is for a girl, for a woman of her size. You know, she could just crawl right up to the top rope. You know, she's very quick. She's very agile. She's definitely going to be a long-term superstar for AEW. But I don't know if you've heard the rumors that, and this is one of the things, and I know not everybody in my household are a big Mercedes fan. I like her because, you know, I think she's doing very well. But again, you know, that's, everybody has their own opinion. Some are more right than others. But what I do like, though, and I do agree that Mercedes has needed something else. It's needed more. And we've talked about, having that enforcer behind her like Camille is fantastic. But also, rumor, you guys, the way what she mentioned in that promo, Mercedes promo, she's talking about what money can buy, and that she's hinted at forming the Money Corporation.
Right. I like that.
Now, there's rumors so that hints that there's going to be more ladies joining Mercedes and Camille. Rumor has it that the Renegade twins might be those two next positions, because if Charlotte Renegade is back from her hiatus, and Robin's getting a push over in the Ring of Honor. That would actually be really cool to see the Renegade twins come out. And of course, it's also looking to push the Britt Baker to bring Jamie Hayter as her muscle and her backup. But then again, I almost feel like Britt's the number 2 to Hayter. Hayter should be the star.
Really?
I don't know.
I think Britt is the bigger star. I think it's going to take a while for Hayter to regain that stardom. It will be a great pop and a great moment. And I still stand by the booking of this. I think Mercedes is going to win at All In, and this is going to be the start of a battle, a war with group. Essentially, if so Mercedes wins, beats down Britt, and you're waiting. Everyone's looking at the ramp. Is music going to hit? Is Hayter's music going to hit? And then boom, gives the people what they want. Hayter's music hit, comes to save the day. Even though Britt lost, she's going to be, winning with her friend returning. Then they're going to battle it out. If Mercedes brings more people to her faction, then that's just going to keep stretching out this feud more and more and more. And this is going to be the money feud of the women's division, which on paper, when we knew Mercedes was coming to AEW, this was the marquee feud of the women's division. And it has shown why. And we're still in its early stages of it being alive, this feud. So we are here. We're buckled in here at Dynamite. Download. Everyone else needs to buckle up, because this is going to be a fun ride with Team Mercedes versus Team DMD over the next few months.
I must protest that when you said this is the marquee match of the women's division, I thank you to issue a correction that the true marquee belongs to timeless Toni Storm and her protege turned harpy bitch, Mariah May. I mean, the unhinged work that Toni Storm is doing. And Mariah May, got to give it to her. Now she's really embraced the turncoat, mentality. That interview with Renee Paquette, and then the subsequent unhinged performance is what I'm going to call it. That performance from Toni Storm with the shoe. Definitely evoking the unhinged Joan Crawford, and the whole she went from Betty Davis and now the Joan Crawford. No wire coat hangers around here. And this is just brilliant. I mean, I am glued every time, and just even her own figure announcement. She for Jazzwares, it's going to be monochrome. She says it's claims it's going to have a shoe. She claims it's going to have a shoe throwing action feature. I don't know if that's true. And then, but the end, she goes, and what you do with it is your own bloody business. And so she's really embracing this character. Yeah, watch for the shoe. But I think this is going to be brilliant. I think you got to really hand it. Say what you want about Mercedes. I agree with you. I'm in your camp. I think she's brilliant, and the feud with Britt's great. But just in the last few months, the women's division has really been, I think, the best it's been in AEW in a long time. I mean, just really compelling. I mean, with so many people injured too, it's really, everybody coming back soon. Hopefully, Julia Hart has teased to come back. We lost Sky Blue, but we're going to be getting some, and Riho's hurt, but we're going to be getting a lot. And just a little plug for Ring of Honor. If you haven't checked out Ring of Honor, you got to take a look at it. I know there's rumors that they might change it to AEW's Ring of Honor. Rampage might become Ring of Honor's show. There's a lot of things swirling. There was a certain photo of Tony Khan with a certain son of a former booker of another company. And there's rumors that he might take over with the money. He might take over Ring of Honor's booking. I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff in the air, but the women's division Ring of Honor has been tremendous. Layla Hirsch and Diamante put on an incredible Texas death match. Red Velvet's now the new TV champion, and Athena just continues to carry that division. I just would like to see some of those ladies eventually, show what they're doing, what they can do in AEW on the television screen and not just a Ring of Honor, because they've really raised the bar there. And I'd love to see it translate onto national television.
I mean, to echo what you said a few minutes ago, and this is we touch on it every single week, and this is the all-time peak moment for the women's division. And I think it's going to really be a huge notch and cherry on top at All In when you have two of some of the highly most anticipated matches in the women's division history in AEW, with Toni Storm, Mariah May, what's been culminating over the last few weeks, and just the slow build over the last year or so, and Mercedes and DMD. And we still got 24 days till showtime to get us even more hype than it is. So it's just going to be what we saw tonight, or last night on Dynamite. We had two. So we had, do we have two? Two women's matches. Willow versus Stat. Camille versus a local talent that I've seen locally at one of the local shows here in Greenville. Recognized her. And then we had the backstage segment from Mariah May. So more and more is starting to be featured, which has been some of the biggest, critiques of me early on in the women's division that really kind of didn't help my excitement for the women's division, because every single time women's match would come on Dynamite, literally be like clockwork, like 30 to 40 seconds later, picture in picture, the match starts. And I'm like, how can I get invested in any feuds when you're going to picture in picture every single match within the first minute? And it was just like, I was just so annoyed by it. And so I just became so uninvested in it. And that is so far from that right now, when we're getting so many feature spotlights, both on what we saw last night, Dynamite, and of course on Collision, which seems to be more of a feature spotlight for the women's division.
Yes.
So it's a lot of fun. And I know you are a strong component of the women's division and women's wrestling in general. So it's got to be really exciting for you to see all that.
Absolutely.
Too.
And to your point, and just to clarify, when I say that, when both of us say that this is the peak, this is the best the women's division has been, it's not a reflection of the talent. It's the reflection of what you just pointed out. It's the time slot. It's giving them the chance to shine. We saw what Thunder Rosa can do with the chance to get the cameras on her. We've seen what these ladies can do, but really now there's consistent storylines. There's compelling storytelling in the ring. There's a lot of compelling things going on, and it's not just here's your courtesy women's match. It's now as much a part of the show, and I'm really enjoying it. And I think it's great for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. To switch gears to one of my favorites, Bryan Danielson. Very interesting thing that we saw tonight on Dynamite, putting his career on the line. I get it for storytelling purposes, and it really makes that match that much more meaningful. But I'm glad he came out and cleared the air for a lot of us. The yes chants were raining throughout the arena, which was fantastic. You had yes versus whose house, Swerve's house. Yes versus. So I think this main event, the crowd is going to just go dueling chants, which it's one of those moments which I hope they do it when they both get in the ring, the bell rings, and they just sit there and like Danielson talks about, being present in the moment, being the present in the moment. Both guys are in the ring and surrounded by 80,000 fans. And you're getting whose house? Swerve's out. Yes, yes, yes. So it's like the dueling fans going toe to toe. And I know I'll be marking out for sure because I think this match is just going to be quite an epic marquee main event at All In. And like I said, I'm glad he cleared the air. And it's no secret the transparency of what he's doing with his contract. What's going to happen? I don't know. You know, who knows what's going to happen with his contract if he does lose, you know, going out on top in one of the marquee shows of the year, one of the biggest wrestling shows ever for attendance wise, or continue this run and maybe play in a storyline where he's like, you know, gets his wife gets a pop and shows an appearance and be like, comes out and congratulates him and, you know, says, I want you to defend this to the end, you know, something like that. What do you make of it?
There's so, in fact, we even debated because, you know, in this house,
yeah.
In this house, it's a Swerve house, definitely.
Whose house?
But also Swerve's house. It's Deb's house, actually.
Whose
because
house?
Whose house? Deb's house. And she feels like, oh no, this means, you know, the announcement that Danielson, if he loses, he'll never wrestle again. She feels like, well, that means he's winning because if he's going to wrestle again. This is pro wrestling, though. Anytime somebody does the retirement, I quit gimmick, they're back in a couple years. You look at all the way back to the 80s or the 90s when Ultimate Warrior retired Macho Man. Well, Macho Man was back, you know, very not long after that. I could see a scenario where Danielson wins and then turns around and says, that's all I wanted. I'm putting this up. Now there's going to be a tournament. And of course, Swerve is and it's going to be all former champions. Swerve, Hanger, Moxley, Jericho, and a returning Kenny Omega.
I wouldn't like that because my spoiledness fandom. However, you know, I'm very intrigued of what's going to happen with this. I think I love a former champion tournament. I think that's a really cool idea for sure. Would really make it a marquee tournament with that, putting that into perspective. But I think this is an opportunity to, if he's willing to do it, to really capitalize on some final matches. Matches for Danielson's last hurrah, per se. I don't think he's going to be done, and I hope he's not done in a few weeks. I hope that something gets thrown in there where his wife comes out to support him. Maybe Bree joins AEW for his final run. And you kind of, I don't know if he'd want to go out on a high note, like, you know, like a Sting, like the final match or whatever it may be. You know, it's kind of tricky wording. My last full-time contract, you know, he could do a part-time contract where he's, you know,
except
whatever.
He said, I will never wrestle again if I lose.
Right.
So that to me, that indicates he's going to win. But then I think
hopefully he's going to go SPD.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I like your idea of including it. You know, he's going to include his family. You know, that's going to be a whole thing. It's going to be weighing on his shoulders, that whole thing. And then of course he's finally just, but as far as he, and Courtney's not a fan of the Bella twins. I mean, I actually would take Nikki Bella. I think she's tremendous. I mean, Bree is awesome. Okay. But you know, I've always been, you know, between the two of them, Deb's on team Nigel, though. The clam digger is going to do not wrestle, but either manage or commentate. We'll be never rid of him. I don't know.
I think. How was he? Oh wait, he was on commentary for Rampage versus in the Wheeler Yuta match, so we couldn't hear. But there's so much he's given to AEW in the wrestling world, and he's come up so short every single time. You know, the Iron Man or the 60-minute matches and all this. So, like, for him to hopefully have one last go around with the likes of a Kenny Omega and a Will Ospreay rematch, which that could be his send off where if he has that rematch with Will Ospreay and either beats him or he loses the title to Ospreay, that's who he beats again. And he beats him without the Tiger Driver. A clean win that way. So
that could be it. I hope we at least get one Brian Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness match. Just one.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I think the rumors online is that he was cleared to wrestle. Nigel.
The Clam Digger versus Nigel has to happen.
Right. That would be a lot of fun. I mean, that means it sets up Danielson. If he can have one go around with Kenny Omega, one go around with Will Ospreay, can face Darby at the Grand Slam. So I think it's a perfect time to give him the belt, let him have the little run, however long it may be, and then give us some just epic matches. Give us the Hangman Swerve that we've been all salivating for,
and then the belt can go back to its rightful home.
I would be fine with a Swerve 2.0 personally.
Absolutely.
Danielson could also, he can go on a dream match farewell tour. You can always fight Moxley. You can fight his fellow Blackpool Combat Club members, and so a lot of possibilities. And I'm not really sure where it goes with this one. I would pick, if I was a betting guy, I would do Danielson winning this one. So 5 title matches right here, just here announced as
this
we
ain't
talk
Battle
about
of the Belt, y'all.
5 title matches, and by the likes of it, it seems like we're going to get a tag title match. Trios still TBD, little hints there. It could be House of Black versus the Patriarchy, so which be another one. I think it would be great to have all belts defended here, which would so.
But we can't have it too long. It can't be too long of a pay-per-view, SPD. It can't be too long. I don't want to have it too long.
Who do you want to fight? I can't wait to do our bingo card for this one. Who do you want Okada to fight?
Well, see, that's who I think Hangman's going to end up fighting it All In. I think they're setting up a Hanger versus Okada, because if you notice, even though Hanger's kind of the heel, he's unhinged, but this is the repercussions from what happened with him and Swerve. He's gone off the deep end. He's obsessed. But if you notice at the at Blood and Guts, Matt had to kind of corral him in, and he and Okada were not on the same page. So I think we might actually be seeing Hanger versus Okada, which I think that would be incredible.
It would, but does that the belt? As I mentioned before, I don't think there any belts, whether it be an Okada or the Continental Classic or the World Title, doesn't need to really be in a play versus the Hangman Swerve, because there's more to it than that. Dang, that 1 p.m. in the States. So I'm going to be driving most of that time. That's what I was kind of thinking of. When does this start? That's probably the pre-show. And so I think the show probably goes live at 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for All In. But a lot of exciting feuds going on.
But there's only one feud, SPD, that you got to worry about it All In, and that's the conglomeration of our generation. You got to talk about the Mark Briscoe and Kyle O'Reilly and Orange Cassidy, and you got to talk about the Stone Pitbull himself, the Ishii, taking on the Bull and whatever that is, and Roderick Strong, next Strong, because the word of the day is conglomeration and recuperation. Arr, arr, arr. Arr. All right.
Go get the dogs riled up.
Can I just take a second to
floor's yours, brother.
Express how I adore the Mark Briscoe and Kyle O'Reilly combo. when he said "Hold my baby" and handed the belt, the RH belt, to Kyle O'Reilly, and Kyle starts throwing it up in the air and then holding it like a baby. That's a duel I didn't know we needed until now.
Exactly.
I understand. I like the conglomeration. It's a place for Orange Cassidy to go, and I just love how opposite, non-enthusiastic Orange Cassidy is, and Ishii's just like, what am I doing? But we need to continue to develop Mark and Kyle as a team. Kyle needs to start dressing more like a Briscoe. I think he needs to go to Briscoe training.
Kyle needs his front teeth knocked out.
I don't know.
So they can match.
Or get the rest of the teeth and just the front teeth, and they
Whatever.
can
Either way,
complement.
they can complement each other.
There you go, from the peanut gallery here in the studio. But yeah, I think that I want to see the two of them. I want to see almost like a Miyagi Danielson kind of thing, where Briscoe takes him to the Briscoe's farm and teaches him redneck kung fu. And I can see them being a tag team, and I can see them winning gold as a tag team.
Okay, all right.
And Beast Mortos, this dude.
So for watching this match live, it was a great live match. Great live crowd match. This one was such back and forth. It was constant energy, and that's what the thing about these trios matches is. As soon as like one guy gets tired, tags in, and it's like boom, hot tag, boom, hot tag, hot tag, hot tag. And so often throughout this match, it was like I'm watching the big screen and I'm watching live, and I'm like, where's everybody? Because you have 3 different battles going on at once, and it was a lot of fun. So for this one, it's just nonstop action, and I think the blessing and the curse of these kind of thrown together trios matches has been, as fans, really no expectations and getting blown away with the action level of wrestling. And you look on paper, other than like the conglomeration, which has been kind of just thrown together, and then you're getting random trios in a sense thrown together as well. But it's been working over the last few weeks when they do this stuff. It's been working to me as a fan. It's not really furthering any stories. It's just one of those where the best wrestle fillers. So I enjoyed this trios match. I really did. No one necessarily was like the standout, but overall, I think everyone's chemistry and the flow of this match was really smooth and a lot of fun for a live crowd.
I'm glad it translated there too, because it really felt like everybody got a chance to get their shit in, if you will. Everybody got a chance to really shine in their own way. Beast Mortos and Roosh was quite a tandem that I was surprised to see. I mean, you mess with the bull, you get the horns. Interesting how they're still continuing the whole Roderick Strong. He was trying to get Kyle to come celebrate with him and the Kingdom. But Kyle's like, no, I'm here. I got my team. So I'm wondering if that's something that they're setting up. Obviously, Roderick's kind of the new de facto leader of the Undisputed Kingdom, I guess. Since both Adam and Wardlow. Adam!
There was a couple Adam chants during this match too.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
So that actually brings me up into an interesting point. So the conglomeration group of 4, do you think we're going to see them versus the UK in some level at All In?
Well, a couple things. One, I don't know how long Ishii's going to be in the United States. I don't know how long he's going to be
through the summer.
Hey, if he's here through the summer, then by all means. But have you noticed? And I'm not sure they fully have mapped this out, but Orange Cassidy's been wearing darker denim lately. He's also been coming across a bit of a dick and a bit of and a little bit, and he almost went a little too far. When he pulled out the wrench a couple weeks ago, and he was going to beat people. So I'm wondering if we're kind of not necessarily a heel, but if we're getting a bit of a personality shift with Orange Cassidy, so it may end up being, the trio of Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, and Ishii, and then is Orange Cassidy going to get into some kind of match where he's a little bit more, and maybe the plan was originally OC and Trent, but now I don't know, does Callis still have plans for Orange Cassidy? Has he kind of dropped that? What's going on with that? I mean, is Sammy Guevara gonna, he debuted on Ring of Honor. Is he ever gonna come back to AEW? What's the deal with that? There's all kinds of questions in the air, but I think that over the next couple of weeks we're gonna get those questions answered.
Yeah, I don't. As much as like hot and cold I am with OC, I don't think he ever should turn heel. It's one of those
Like
like you
Willow.
need the stable baby face because the pop that he got was one of the loudest of the nights. Like when they just mentioned his name, and so it's one of those that it's a safe bet every time.
Yeah.
So you can't stray too far away from that. Um, let's talk about two quick things. I'm reading a few things on Twitter while we're talking, which I don't really want to spoil anything, but we'll talk off air on it. But
Okay.
you're back to the women's division. Where do you see this going? Statlander and Willow have run its course a lot. They've been going back and forth. We just saw Statlander with the chain knocking out Willow for the eliminator match. Do you see that we're going to get a no DQ match at All In? Where do you want this to go to end? Because I feel like it's getting very close to the end of a great feud, which I've really enjoyed. Former friends turning into foes. I agree with you, Brent. I do not like eliminator matches either. It's kind of silly, in my opinion. But sidebar that. And what do you want to happen to kind of close the book on this one?
Well, first of all, I think that I really like the heel turn. I like heel Statlander.
Yeah,
I think
it's working
dropping
good.
the alien gimmick, and I think she's finally really found herself in her character. Stokely is such a tremendous hype man for her, and such a great heel manager. And Willow is another one. You mentioned, we're talking about Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, and Willow Nightingale. Those are three that should never turn heel.
Right.
It's so counter to Willow. Now all three of them can be aggressive. Lord knows Darby is aggressive, but I think that those are three that should always stay babyface, and arguably Rio as well. But Statlander heel, I think, has been fantastic, and she's actually exploring a more three-dimensional personality. I can see this. I know that some people in the chat are saying they think Willow's winning. I'd love to see Willow win. I do agree. I think some kind of no DQ match would be great. I don't know if the place for it is All In. I'm wondering because you got to remember, All Out is 10 days away, like almost 2 weeks after All In.
Right.
So maybe we save it for that, or maybe we save it for a main event of Dynamite of some kind. But going back to the women's division, there's so many directions this can go. Willow, and again, this title is a title that Willow can defend anywhere. This is not an AEW title, so whoever wins the title is going to be going around the world, or at least going to be defending it in other locations. So I do think that Willow, we'll see more Willow in CMLL,
right,
as well. But we could also see Statlander showing up in CMLL and taking some folks on. So, and I do feel like even though Forbidden Door itself, the pay-per-view is over, I think we're going to continue to see that Forbidden Door, people passing back and forth, and we may have lost Stephanie Vacour to the E, but I think there's a lot of other talents that could be stepping through and making their presence known in AEW.
Yeah, I like where you went about saving this for, because this is the feud that's essentially the one more. I think you get one more go at this that's it for now, at least. And so you could save this for a no DQ, street fight, a Texas death match, whatever you may want to call it, because Willow's been really dominant in those matches, which has been crazy to watch. She's been a total beast in those matches. So you could give us that on a Dynamite. You could give us that at All Out and save that so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle of the other women's division or other women's matches on the upcoming cards. Main event, Hangman versus Darby. Hard to believe that this was the first time these two fought. When I saw that online, I was like, I got to look into this. Very hard to believe two OGs in AEW 5 years later, and this is the first time they're going toe-to-toe in a singles match. Granted,
Won't be the
Hangman's
last
been
time.
more of a baby face his run and stuff. So very interesting. This match, I'm curious, like from a watching from home standpoint, how was the vibe and how are the commentators hyping up Hangman's attitude and body language and his like slow, methodical torturing of Darby?
They were playing up a lot of the stuff. They did talk a lot about how Swerve affected him, how that whole thing is home invasion, how he's a different man. He's obsessed. He's driven. He wants to hurt Darby. Like they were talking about how there were times where he could have got the pin, but he wanted to hurt Darby.
Yeah,
like,
the double Deadeye.
It was less about Darby. It was more he wanted to cause pain to whoever his opponent was. And then the ending, how he went after Rumsberg after the decision. It was kismet. It was such a great chemistry between the two of them. Their match styles, their wrestling styles work so perfectly. Darby, of course, the crash test dummy, the rag doll. He a lot of times he spent a bulk of the match getting thrown around, but then all of a sudden, zooms quicker than a hiccup. He's doing his crazy stuff. I like that Darby tried to do the buckshot lariat, but then got laid out by Hangman. I thought that was great. Not only was that a cool spot, but it was great storytelling. I'd like to see this happen again a few times, but I felt like this was good storytelling for both of them. Darby needed the win. And a loss to Darby just makes Hangman even more unhinged. And I think that's going to play into Hangman's being unhinged and the Elite trying to calm him down. Okada maybe getting a bit of a hothead, and I think that's how we're going to start to see Adam turn on the Elite.
Okay. Yeah. I think it was cool to watch live, just like the slow, methodical, evil offense and beatdown.
If I could say one thing, though, I want Hanger's old music back. I don't know if I like the new music.
I would be at the top of the petition to sign for both Hanger and Thunder's old music to come back.
Yes.
And Jericho's.
Yeah. Well, I think Jericho doing the Learning Tree song, I think that's to piss everybody off. But I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just was thinking, like, yeah, slow and methodical, but I still kind of think Hanger needs his old music back. I know they're trying to make him more of a dark cowboy, but I don't know.
No, I think even people are going to cheer for Hangman regardless because of his history and his likableness, even if he is the heel and even if he's, this ruthless, like angry guy. The old music, I guess it does. It has a vibe of him being, a true baby face. But regardless, I like his old music so much better. Same with Thunder. Same with Jericho. I'm trying to think anybody else that sticks out where you would prefer their old theme song.
You think about it, like even in WWF or WWE, there's certain theme songs you just don't mess with. You associate immediately with that wrestler. I mean, Stone Cold still comes out to the glass shatters. The Rock has had several incarnations, but it's still been essentially the same theme song. He's had the Hollywood version, but it's all been "You Smell What the Rock Is Cooking," same beat. Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to come out of I used to go into the weight room to da 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 da. There's song and there's that first few seconds. I mean, when we play the theme song Turmoil or theme song Turmoil, it's that first few seconds that causes the pop. And that's what we're saying about Thunder is even if they went with her new theme, they should still have that same familiar drum riff at the beginning.
Right.
Because as soon as you hear Thunder's coming. And all of a sudden we thought we were at a Plaza Azteca all of a sudden, and it was like it wasn't like the ass kicking is coming. Darby, you hear that, he's coming.
Right.
I think that there's I even miss the original Private Party theme this is a private party, and you all invited. I mean, shots. They get the crowd doing shots. Here we go. That's fine. Deb likes the original Moxley theme, the paradigm shift, but I've kind of grown attached to the to Wild Thing for him. But yeah, I think that you don't mess with a wrestler's theme too much unless they're going for a character change as well.
True. I totally agree with that. I do like Moxley's new theme. I did like his WWE theme a lot with that like guitar riff, but Wild Thing is worked so well with him. This match, I was kind of surprised of the result, and I think it makes a lot of sense after letting it sit and digest, like you said, and like a loss, kind of a fluke loss with the quick roll ups and the quick pins and the little maneuvers that Darby did. Really putting Hangman on a more vengeance path makes a lot of sense. They went toe to toe in blood and guts, so it's not like there's no storyline there. Where's Darby going next? Like, I mean, yeah, he's got Jack Perry in his sights now, so is he going to go against someone else in the Elite leading up to All In? But the path that Hangman's going to start to go on, I think, is really going to be fun to follow because of how pissed off he is. And I hope that we see him lurking around Swerve a lot. Even though, I don't want him to interfere anything with the Danielson match at all, but I want him to at least be his presence known when Swerve's around. Like, I'm coming for you. I'm watching you. Whether it be a face-to-face confrontation or just like in the crowd or like passing by where he's watching Swerve and Swerve has no idea he's getting watched. Yeah. So like this stalkingness, I want to see Hangman stalking Swerve. And so us fans are reaping this. So we're knowing the ultimate payoff when he finally gets his hands on Swerve.
I love that this is going to be one of those feuds for years. Like we're going to be, AEW in 5 years, we're still going to they're going to probably run back Hanger and Swerve. It's going to be one of the, and I predict there'll be a time, because if you look at some of the classic feuds, you look at Hogan and Macho Man, you look at, what's it called? Yeah, exactly. You look at Stone Cold and The Rock, you look at all these, all these classic feuds, they come back, there's always, it's always the one person, like, Swerve might go the distance and then Hanger shows up or Hanger might go for a streak and then Swerve. And I love that they're doing that. I love that AEW is now at the point, over 5 years in, where they're now establishing who their homegrown Rock and Stone Cold, who their homegrown legends are now, granted, you could argue, Jericho, Moxley, those guys came in from another company, but now that, that you got the guys like Darby, that in 10 years, we're going to be looking at Darby and Sammy and Hanger and Swerve, just like we look at Stone Cold and The Rock and John Cena and Batista and all those guys.
Yeah. I think you have this core feud, which is very key for any company to have, to be able to revisit over and over again, and to just give us just absolute, symphony of storylines throughout.
Symphony of storylines. I like that.
I miss Wardlow, man. I miss him. I think back to the UK. I think that's done. That's got it. They missed their shot. They missed their window. It only makes sense for either Roddy Strong to turn on Adam Cole, to put Adam Cole back as a babyface, and Wardlow just to let him do his own thing. Or you have this turn with Roddy Strong in the UK on Wardlow and Adam Cole. I don't know. It's a tricky thing we've talked about for many weeks, of the way we would have booked it and the unfortunate fumble of the UK, which could have been so much more. Because the last we've seen of Wardlow was when I was there in Dynasty in April.
It's it's sad. It's kind of like NWO starting out and then suddenly Nash and Hall get injured. You know, it's like it's kind of like I think that Adam Cole hurting his foot really like sidetracked, I think, the whole plan there. And it happens, you know, and you got to plan for it. But Wardlow, it has just really been snake bitten as far as once he won the TNT title, it's kind of been like, now what? You know, and there's so much potential for this guy. I wouldn't mind, of course, him teaming up with Brian Cage and becoming War Machine, but that's my own personal thing. Right. I think you're right. I think if Adam Cole does come back or not, the bet Roderick and Taven and Bennett work so great as heels. You know, they're such a great heel faction, whether Adam's with them or not. I mean, you got to keep those guys heels. Yes, I miss Ricky Starks as well. There's another guy that we'd like to see. I want one of two things, and this is hard for me to say because I'm like you. We adore Wardlow at Dynamite Download. When he comes back to AEW, he needs to go on a tear and just be. And it looked like he was kind of going there, and then all of a sudden he was going after MGF. He just needs to go and get W's, and just be this beast. And even then, it's going to be hard. It's going to be kind of like skeptical until he gets some gold. But I mean this for him. I would not be mad if Wardlow went to WWE. And I say this not because I want him to go. Because as a fan, I want him to come back and excel at AEW. But if the right move, and if he could get a fresh start, kind of like Cody did, but I mean, maybe go to NXT first, whatever. If he could get a fresh start at WWE, I'm okay with that.
Okay. I mean, selfishly, I don't want to see that, but
yeah.
Hey, unselfishly, you want someone you support to succeed in whatever fashion that is. So, interesting take. You know, I don't want to do too much, but as we were talking, I'm staying plugged into X right now and what's going on in Collision because I get excited and I like to. So something's happened with a lot of good buzz of the show.
No spoilers.
The Fletcher cage match stole the show so far, so not surprised there with two absolute beasts. But the UK may or may not have found their fourth member to challenge the conglomeration. So we'll see. I'll leave on that note. But episode 137, folks. Thank you for joining. Love having you all in the chat. We'll talk soon. And we are on a road to All In. Buckle up, everyone. Rampage, last night I was there, is on tomorrow night, but it sounds like Collision is definitely a must-see show as always, but especially right now that we're getting, this Collision seems to be a lot going on and a lot of DD favorites that are going to be featured there. So definitely tune in to a 5 p.m. start on Saturday for Collision. Have a good night, folks. Thank you for joining. We will see you next time.
All right, everybody.